Hi, my name is Katarina Sullivan and I would like to welcome you to my YouTube channel. So I have posted earlier today a video about my absence from the channel that sort of covers what's happened in Parliament over the last couple of weeks, few weeks. I don't even know how long I've been gone. But today I wanted to do a video on the WA state election because I think it is really important that everyone is across what is happening, how to vote. And as an ex-resident of WA who's actually never had the opportunity to vote in Western Australia because I moved away from there before I was 18, yeah, I'm really passionate about WA politics. Especially in light of how everything's happened recently with Mark McGowan and sort of the weird cult-like worship of Mark McGowan. It's pretty bizarre as someone sitting on the East Coast and watching everything happen in WA, and like East Coast people just think everyone in WA are cowboys. And to some extent, like even the other day, this is just a very small example of how state laws are different and how it is literally the Wild West. So we were talking about selling cars in WA and selling them like secondhand on Marketplace. My dad mentioned to my partner that you don't have to have a roadworthy check or whatever it's called here. I actually can't remember. Before selling a car secondhand. So you can actually sell a really dodgy car in WA without having a piece of paper to say it's been certified, which is insane because on the East Coast you have to go through all these checks to make sure that, you know, your car is legit and it's working and everything's fine. So Western Australia is literally cowboy state, like insane. And then on top of that, there is this like really high approval rating of someone that East Coast people are sort of scratching their head about with what's happening with how hard the border is being closed in WA. Especially somewhere like Canberra where, you know, we've been washing our hands, keeping our distance, minding our business, doing our check-ins, and we haven't had community transmission for a very long time here. Touch wood. To us, it's all just bizarre. Not saying that Mark McGowan's not a fantastic leader, but yeah, the worship thing is just crazy. I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a pub that did like Bring a Mark Day, and if your name was Mark, you got a free meal at a pub in honor of Mark. Anyway, that's probably a whole nother conversation about sexism as well. That why aren't women getting free meals? But I wanted to cover what is happening in the upcoming election, even though so just for the people on the East Coast who are watching this just out of curiosity, and the people who aren't aware in WA, it's Mark McGowan for Labor and Zach Kirkup for the Liberals. And Kirkup's already kind of conceded defeat a couple of weeks out. He was like, look, we're not expecting to win, but we're gonna go in and try. A few people got upset by it. They were like, ugh, why would you concede already? But then there's a part of it where I sort of respect the fact that he's not lying or exaggerating his what he thinks his chances of success are. Like Markham approval, wow. I mean, that should go to show you Markham approval. Mark McGowan's approval rating is up in the 90s. Like, it's not a tight competition. And so I think I appreciate Zach Kirkup's honesty of, I don't know if it's going to happen. And for a lot of people saying that they want to see politicians who are a bit more honest, and then Zach Kirkup coming out and being that honest, and then people getting upset about his honesty, we've just got to find out where we want our politicians to really balance everything. So I think it was cool that he came out and sort of conceded. But then, of course, there was that whole maybe we should keep the borders closed for longer because of the meth crisis in WA that Mark McGowan said, and then a lot of people got upset, and I can't keep ahead of what's happening in WA. But the most important thing is that the state election is this Saturday, the 13th of March. So if you are registered to vote in Western Australia, you need to vote on or before the 13th of March. The website that you should go to for all voting information is elections.wa.gov.au. That is where I get my information from, that I share with you just in a more fun, weird, sometimes embarrassing video format. But my information comes from there. You should not go anywhere else for your information on how to vote unless you are following a party and you want to grab one of their how to vote cards and fill it out exactly as they say. But if you are not wanting to vote for that party, do not take a how to vote card. I did have a question about this at one point. I can't remember if it was the ACT election or the Queensland election, but someone did ask, you know, I received this how to vote card. Is that how I vote? And I'm like, well, who do you want to vote for? And they said, well, not the party that gave it to me. And I'm like, well, don't vote that way. So I think it's really important that we put that distinction in, that you should only get your how to vote information from elections.wa.gov.au. And if you want to follow the party guide on how to vote to get your preferred party in, you can get a how to vote card from them. You only have a few hours before you are no longer eligible to apply for a postal vote. So postal vote applications close on the 10th of March 2021 at 6 p.m. WA time. So please make sure that you apply for your postal vote before then if you need to do a postal vote. If you do not get it in before that time, you will not be able to do a postal vote, so you will need to go to an in-person polling centre. Because of everything that's happening with COVID, you don't actually need a reason to apply for an early vote or a postal vote. Not that you apply for an early vote. You don't need a reason to apply for a postal vote, and you don't need a reason to do an early vote. You can just do them. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can make it to a polling centre for XYZ reason, but I don't know if that's a reason that qualifies. It does. Every reason qualifies. You are totally entitled to have a postal vote as long as you apply before that deadline of the 10th of March at 6 p.m. WA time. So the website that I said before, elections.wa.gov.au, has a list of polling centres near you that are open both for early polling and polling on the day. Of course, if you vote on the day, there is a chance you will get a democracy sausage, which is amazing. It's literally like the highlight of my voting. Anyway, so yeah, you can have a look there. It also has information on parties and candidates. So you can go, you can put in where you live, and it will tell you what electorate you are. And then you can actually find out a little bit more about your candidates, because you can do a quick Google or Facebook stalk or Instagram stalk or Twitter. Like, there's so many places that you can like randomly follow people nowadays and work out who they are. You can also contact your candidates by picking up the telephone and dialing or sending an email. Just beware with emails that candidates get a lot of emails around this time, so it might take them a little bit to get back to you. And with only a few days before the election, it could be a tight turnaround, so I suggest calling. You might not actually be able to speak to your candidate, but maybe a volunteer with their campaign who can give you some information about that candidate's views on certain topics that you're passionate about. So WA Parliament is bicameral, which means there are two houses. There is the Legislative Assembly and the Legislative Council. The Legislative Assembly is most similar to the House of Representatives, and the Legislative Council is most similar to the Senate. However, they are not identical, but just so you get a little bit of understanding in your mind, that's kind of where they are similar. The white paper is for the Legislative Assembly. That will have your candidates all down a list with boxes next to them. It is your job to fill in the numbers 1 until you're finished. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. Every candidate must have a different number in the box next to them. Your number 1 is your first preference. Your number 2 is your second preference. Your last number should be your least preferred candidate. That is how the votes are then counted. So please don't put number 1 next to the last candidate. It's not like a point system, the candidate with the most points wins. It's number 1 for your preferred candidate. And you need a different number in each box. You cannot tie candidates. You can't have, oh, well, they're equal best, so I'm going to put 1 in boxes. No. 1 number per box. You cannot have the same number more than once. That is how you fill out your legislative assembly voting paper, which is the white paper. I love this. I ran out of space on my device because I'm talking too much. So this is a second video. I hope you don't even notice the transition. The colored paper is the Legislative Council voting paper, and you will be asked to vote either above the line or below the line, very similar to the Senate. So if you vote above the line, that means that you are voting for a party or group of candidates. So instead of being able to say, I like this candidate most in this party, therefore I'm going to put a number 1 next to them, you are going with whatever the party has chosen for their preferred candidates. If you vote above the line, you only need to put a number 1 next to the party or group of candidates that you prefer. Every other box is to be left blank. So you just put a number 1 next to the party you want. If you're voting below the line, you need to fill out every single box from 1 until the boxes are exhausted. You have to have a different number in every box. The numbers have to be sequential, so you can't miss out number 4. You have to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can't have 1, 2, 3, 5. It is a little scarier voting below the line because there are more chances that you will stuff up. Most of us know how to count to 20 with no problems. However, when you get into that booth and everything's a little bit different and the future of Australia, well, Western Australia, which basically thinks it's its own country anyway. So the future is like riding on your shoulders and oh my gosh, yeah, you forget how to count a little, and it's perfectly normal to make a mistake. So just be really, really careful. If you do decide to vote below the line, make sure that you are filling out all the boxes correctly. I cannot recommend which way you vote, either above or below the line. I will tell you, however, that I always choose to vote below the line because I like having control over my preferences. If my child or a close friend or relative were to ask me how I would recommend they vote, I would always encourage below the line. But I probably shouldn't do that in a YouTube video. So I'm just going to tell the anecdote and leave it very open-ended for you. ... Either above or below the line on the coloured voting paper, which is the Legislative Council voting paper. I spoke about making mistakes. If you make a mistake, it's totally okay. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're a human, not a robot. Even robots make mistakes. You can not be perfect. It's about what you do next. If you make a mistake, call over someone for help. They have people at these polling booths to help for situations like this, where you don't understand, or you need some guidance, or you've made a complete error. You can put up your hand or walk over to someone, explain your mistake, and they will get you a new piece of paper. It's all good. You don't need to freak out. And it's not embarrassing to make a mistake. I make plenty of mistakes. Just make sure that your vote counts. That's the most important thing. The only mistake that you can really make on the day is making a mistake, know you've made a mistake, and then not correct it, and then put your ballot in, and then your vote doesn't count. That's a huge mistake. Or just like not showing up at all to vote. That is also a mistake. Please make sure you vote if you are registered to vote. When I said before about calling someone over for help or guidance, they obviously can't tell you which parties to prioritize, but if you've forgotten how to fill out the ballot paper, you forget, if it's above the line or below, whatever, and you need someone to clarify it, ask questions. It's totally okay. I feel like for some reason, because it's like such a grown-up civic responsibility to vote, that we think we need to know everything about it, which It's ridiculous because most people I speak to were never educated about how to vote. They just kind of got thrown into it and like, good luck, the future's on your hands, bye. Ask questions, it's totally fine. And if anyone gives you like attitude for asking a question, report them, because not on my watch. We are encouraging people to be informed citizens, and if anyone is making you feel like you can't ask questions, then they should just go away. Report them. Like, honestly, send an angry email, be that person, and make sure that everyone feels invited to fully participate in democracy. Yeah. So informal votes are votes that aren't counted because you haven't filled out the ballot paper correctly, whether it's the fact that you've left the ballot paper completely blank, or you've put wrong numbers in wrong places, or you haven't followed the instructions. Just make sure you follow the instructions that are set out on the ballot papers. Make sure you fill out both ballot papers, the white one for the Legislative Assembly and the coloured one for the Legislative Council. If you don't know what you're doing, ask. Make sure all of this happens before Saturday the 13th of March, or if you are voting on election day, between 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. WA time. Do not get there at 6:01 and be like, it's my turn to vote. No, you need to be there before 6 p.m. Voting closes at 6. So if your ballot is not in the box at 6 p.m, you have not voted. And that's sad. Be organized. If you work Saturdays, either try and organize some time on your lunch break or on a coffee break to quickly duck out to a polling place. If you work and you start at 9, get to a polling place before 9 o'clock. If you finish at 5, get to a polling place as soon as you finish work. Otherwise, go early. You can vote early for any reason, or apply for a postal vote by Wednesday the 10th of March at 6 p.m. WA time. I don't know what else to talk about in this. I'm pretty sure I've covered everything. But if you do have a question, please ask. I will do my best to help you with it. And if you are an East Coaster and you've survived this whole video of me ranting about Western Australia, congratulations. Make sure you tell your WA friends to vote. And if you're a Western Australian and you know that you have to vote in the upcoming election and you love to share information that makes everyone's lives easier, happier, better, and more awesome in democracy, please share this video, please give it a thumbs up, please comment, subscribe to my channel, follow me on social media, all of those things, and good luck with your democratic duties. And yeah, I'll probably check back in with you with a recap video when we find out the results of the election, which I'm assuming is going to be Mark McGowan wins, but we don't know that. But please don't let that discourage you from voting, even if you are a Labour voter and you're like, oh, well, it doesn't matter if I show up anyway because, you know, Mark McGowan's going to win. Or if you're a Liberal voter and you feel like, oh, what's the point of showing up when Mark McGowan's... Still go and vote. It's a great experience, and it gives you the opportunity to turn around to your elected representatives and say, I showed up on election day to put someone in power, and you need to live up to what I did on election day. I did the work, now you got to do it. So it gives you like a little bit of leverage when you're upset about something and you want it fixing an electorate. Yeah, so go vote. Thanks, love you guys, bye!